Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to next episode number 6, group policy on Active Directory Windows Server 2025. So if you see my all episodes, I am right now working on episode number 6. So in this we'll talk about what is group policy, how group policy works, group policy components, group policy processing order and GPU scenarios with demonstration. So what is group policy? As per Microsoft, a group policy, we called as group policy object, is a collection of settings that can control the configuration of computers and users in an Active Directory environment. These policies can manage security, you can start the services, software installation, script, any desktop environment. Example, you can see control panel, run, search, and you want to deny application protection policies, software restriction policies, map drives, and in short you can define everything or manage everything in the client environment through a group policy. So second, how group policy works. Group policy you can implement on multiple objects. So one is your site, Active Directory site, and before that if you have any local policy, so then we have a domain, then we have applied to your OU. Local means local to the machine. So if I say start run ds, what do you call it? Your gpedit.msc. So it will open a local group policy. Local group policy implemented only for a local machine where we are working. So normally, as a best practice, we deploy normally few policies on a domain. Example, password policy for all my employees, and definitely maximum policies we do it at OU level. OU we already understand in last series. OU can be based on country, office location, departments, and site is your actually AD site. So, and this is the processing order. Highest priority will be the local, after that site, then domain, and then to the OU. Now, group policy component. So first component is group policy container. So group policy container stores in AD, contain metadata, version, status, and then we have group policy templates stored in sysvol, contain actual policy files. Then we have ADMX templates, which is define available settings stored locally or centrally in a central store. And finally we have security filtering. By default policy applied to all users, all computers, based on what target you define. But if you want, this policy should be applicable only for a specific security, specific users, specific groups. Then we have security things, and next is WMI filtering. So GPU apply only to a specific OS. Say example, I want a software deployment policy should apply only to Windows 10 machines, not on Windows 11, because that software is compatible only for Windows 10. So we use some WMI filtering. We'll see all this in the demonstration. So processing order, local first, site, domain, and then OU. So common use case, you can put a password policy, desktop background, disable USB, software deployment policies, Windows updates, firewall policy. So lots of scenarios. You can block control panel, run, search. You can define almost everything. Let's see what we have a scenario, and this will be a little deep dive scenarios. So I'll go to my AD machine. So I have country US. Inside US we have an office, New York. Inside that, sales department, sales 1, sales 2, 2 employees, and 1 IT department, IT 1, IT 2. So let's draw this scenario. So we have OU US. Inside US we have a office New York, and inside that we have 2 departments. One is department for sales, one is department for IT, and here I am going to apply policy only on the New York office. So any policy implemented to the New York office automatically inherited to all the departments. And here we have a user called sales 1 employee, and in IT department we have an employee called IT1. So that's the scenario we have. So first I'll put a policy here, policy 01 into New York office. So this policy applied to all my departments, all the employees, and in this I'll put it, say, control panel deny, and say recycle bin deny something, and then we'll see this policy is implemented, applied to all users, belongs to New York office, all departments including sales 1 and IT 1. So 2 users which we are mainly working. So now go to the server manager, tools, group policy management console. So you can implement at a site, at a domain. So by default we have a default domain policy which is applied to all the users, all the computers, everything. And we have a separate policy for only for a domain controllers, that is called default domain controller policy. Now I want policy should implement on Office New York. Right click, new GPU, policy 1 for New York office, say baseline policy. Right click edit, and so finally target can be computers, can be users. The difference is if you are doing for a computers, it's applicable for computers. Any user login on those computers, policy applied. And if you are saying users, it's applied to users. It means user login anywhere in the world, any domain joined machine, policy applied to the user. So right now I'm doing for a user. So we have huge number of policies inside group policy. So Windows component, folder redirection, lots of things. So I'll say first policy, say control panel, and say prohibit access to the control panel. policy always be non-configured. If you enable it, it should be enabled. Disable, I will explain you later on. So no control panel for users. On a desktop, I can say remove recycle bin. And then yeah, I think 2 should be okay, unless we need some specific one. Yeah, 2 is okay. So TP update /force. So IT1, password reset. Sales 1, password reset, because I don't remember what I said 2 days back. So ADC02, which is my client machine right now, used as a client machine. Log off, log in with first sales 01. So in the lab perspective, first I am demonstrating implement a policy. And policy implementation means it inherited to all the machines. That's why it inherited to all my client users, sales users, and IT users. So right now, if I say control panel, it's blocked. And recycle bin, yeah, it's a server machine, so don't have recycle bin, so it should be fine. I'll try to block something else. Let's see. So I'll say on a desktop, hide and disable all items on the desktop. So we have edge, so let's hide all icons. TP update. Login with the second user. IT1. Yeah, you see, recycle bin is there. Now let's log in. IT01. So no recycle bin, no edge icon, and definitely there should not be a control panel. Looks good. So now any policy you implemented on New York office, and we have two departments, these are the sub OUs. So this is called policy implemented here, policy applied on this. This is called policy inheritance. Any policy on the parent come down to the child. Now I want this policy 1 should not apply on IT. We don't want this any policy inheritance. It means when IT1 user login, control panel, all these things should be available for IT. So I go to group policy console and IT, right click, block inheritance, GP update. It means when IT user login, policy should not apply. Log off login. Come on. Login. So you see recycle bin is there, edge icon is there because there is a policy we cannot see any icon on the desktop, and same control panel is also there. So this policy applied only to user sales people. So if I say who am I, and do the log off login for the sales, no recycle bin, no edge, and no control panel. So that's called policy inheritance with enabling block inheritance. So here we enable block inheritance BI. Now there's a concept called enforce. Child says I don't want any policy from a parent, but parent said no, you have to follow my policies. Enforce. If we done enforce, this block inheritance has no value. It means again policy applied to the salespeople if policy is enforced. Enforce has more priority than block inheritance. So block inheritance is still there, but parent said no, it's enforced. Log off login, again login with the IT1. recycle bin gone, desktop icon gone, control panel gone. So that's called enforce. Now I remove this enforce, remove this inheritance. It's typically like a default. Any policy on the top apply to all my child objects. Now the next scenario is if I delete this policy, it's actually not deleted here. Database is still group policy object. So it means again I go back to the Office New York and link an existing GPO from the database. But if this it's deleted from the database, definitely it's deleted. So for that we need to do an Active Directory backup. It includes your group policy backup, otherwise right click backup all. So I'm doing in the network location. Right now I'm doing this thing on C drive. GPO backup. And from here, if I delete it from the link, delete it from the database, right click, there's the option manage backup. I can restore my policy which is not visible here. And then we can restore back with the linking. So that's the next concept which we discussed. The backup. Next is conflicting policy. Now, in this policy one, we done three things: control panel deny, recycle bin deny, and you cannot see any icon on the desktop as a policy. So it means these three things are applicable for sales user and IT users. Now IT people normally needs control panel. So I want recycle bin should not be available, but at least control panel should be available to the IT people. So it means out of the three changes, two changes should apply, but one change, control panel, should not apply to the IT people and control panel should be visible. So this is something called conflicting policy. Root says it's blocked and IT people says it's allowed. So any conflict between top and the bottom will win. So it means I'm creating a conflicting policy at IT department, right click, new group policy, conflict policy for policy 1, New York office baseline. So in this conflicting policy, I edit, I say control panel, and prohibit control panel, same policy. If I say not configured, it's not configured, no value. If I say prohibit control panel enable, it's blocked, which is already blocked from the parent policy. This time we do a conflicting policy disable. So it means at least control panel should have a conflict between the parent policy which says blocked, here saying disable. So first the processing order is this: if this policy applied, after that this policy applied, and this will win. So it means if I log in onto IT1, recycle bin icon on the desktop gone, but control panel should be available to the IT people. Conflicting scenarios. And not confused. Here it's IT1. So that's called conflicting scenario. Next is the policy which we are working right now, the main policy. If we need to pull the report, it's applied to, or this policy has 3 changes, or what changes we have done so far. Go to the settings and it's a generate the report. So this clearly says what changes we have done in this policy. Save this report into XML or HTML format. Now WMI filtering, as well as security filtering. So this policy is applied to authenticated user. It's applied to all users, whoever belongs to in the Office New York parent and the child, including Sales 1, Sales 2, IT1, IT2. So if I remove this and say only IT1, this policy apply only to IT1. Now if you want this policy should apply only to Windows 10 machines, we can put a WMI filtering. So example, there is a one group policy which is having a software deployment, and that software is applicable only for Windows 10 machine. So you want this policy should apply only to Windows 10, not on Windows 11. So that's why you put a WMI filtering, say Windows 10, and select version, Windows operating system version 10, and this policy, the main policy which we have, apply to Windows 10 machine. What is the impact? In my case, I don't have any machine Windows 10, so logically this policy not applied on any machine. I'm just showing in a reverse direction. So I applied Windows 10 and I don't have Windows 10 now. So it means if I log in now with the Sales 1 and IT1, there's a no policy applied on these machines. It means everything is available, including desktop icon, recycle bin, including control panel, just because we don't have any Windows 10 machine right now. These machines are Server 2025 used as a client. So that's called WMI filtering. Let's back to the default. There's a no WMI and then GP updates. And there is a no conflicting policy also. Everything is default. Now, starter GPO. What is starter GPO concept? Starter GPO means, like example, there are 10 important changes normally we need to do for every department whenever we introduce in our company. So normally we forget what are those 10 changes, and there's a possibility we missed out one or two changes. So you define this starter GPU as a baseline for all departments, and this you can use again and again as a template. Say example, in this starter GPU I have done allow online tips example. Go to the system, go to disk quota, enable disk quota. Just two changes, So whenever any new policy comes, now example Prague office new policy comes, policy 2 for Prague, then you can choose this baseline. What is the benefit? So those two changes you really no need to configure again and again. It's automatically picked up from baseline. It means if I go to control panel, let's close this and check the settings, So two changes in the control panel, allow tips, and you see this already. So this is called the baseline. Thank you everyone for watching this series, and we'll see you in episode number 7, how to deploy additional domain controller. Thank you.